We'll now move with Mrs. Todorovic, professor at the University of Belgrade, permanent visiting professor, Southeast University in China, editor of Elsevier's Journal Energy and Buildings. We'll be talking about harmonized rural and urban sustainable development to preserve natural and cultural heritage via RAS, energy efficiency, and BPS. Please welcome Mrs. Todorovic.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. I just can add that only that I'm fellow of Marija, European Association of Heat Ventilating and Air Conditioning. I'm fellow of ASHRE, and I'm also fellow of World Academy of Art and Science. It is not surplus these days, never, to mention about global warming, weather extremes, and catastrophic events. Maybe earlier always I had slides showing about different catastrophic events in different parts of the world. But this time, a few months ago, we had in this region really terrible weather events, flood in Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, and even in Belgrade you see power plant of more than 1.5 megawatt was in water. It was luck that one man in one moment was enough quick to turn off the power plant. These days in the world is more and more happening migration of people, leaving villages. Villages are dying and growing our cities, mega cities. For example, down right you can see this I think Hong Kong, but recently there was a conference and I had a presentation in Chongqing. I never heard about that town before, and it is one of 4 China's governmental cities. So they have 4 DC Washington. That city has 40 million people. Can you imagine? Bottom left is one Mediterranean rural village which is dead without people. That is Zagora in Montenegro. In these areas, it's important around the world to stop this huge migration to cities and dying rural villages, and to preserve cultural and natural resources, and to have sustainable local development based on preserving natural and cultural heritage. There is one project of Council of Europe, and there is running that project there is some Croatia, in Cyprus, Portugal, and then it started also in Serbia, taking 2 municipalities, and most of people engaged were thinking just about tourism, about craft and so, but my intention and proposal was, and it was already accepted and it will start in these 2 municipalities to have, okay, we will develop tourism, but everything is to be based on natural resources. So energy, renewable energy sources are to be used. There are a lot of these very important, for example, it's famous 5,000–6,000 years BC settlement in Serbia. They had already writing. There is also mine. It belongs to world history. It is to be preserved. What is interesting, if you look traditional buildings all around the world in very different parts, traditional buildings are in harmony with nature. And just see, It is on the left natural resort in Serbia, and you see right above old Serbian house. This is traditional building with a huge attic space, which is preventing super overcooling in winter, preventing overheating in summer. Nice ratio between the windows, transparent and opaque part of the building. Nicely located windows on all sides and providing natural ventilation, whatever direction of the wind is. Used materials, wood, stabilized earth, like in most high quality German bricks. And look here, Chinese left above, German right, Russian down left, American. They are so similar in so different parts of the world, all really in the nature, like bioclimatic. So traditional low-rise building, what is characteristic for that? There was no absolute luxury, no pretensions, but harmony, taste, and measure, which were creatively produced even in great poverty. And old house is excellently proportional of the stunning geometrical values. Understood was a codex standardization which was just adjusted and fixed up for centuries, and that is the spirit which should be transported in a modern Serbian house, Chinese house, Croatian house, Greek. The style and the rhythm of a modern man's are much more different than they were in earlier times, and the idea is not that the modern man should live in a 19th century house. No. The spirit of heritage is to be expressed in other ways, not going back to heritage and tradition, but starting with that. So, as heritage is the tasted experience of previous generation, it should not be ignored, but should be transposed, the inherited and developed in modern needs. Just to remind the scheme of energy analysis, this is international standard on the building system. From the left to right, it is during the life cycle, during the operation, input, output, and what is important, and pretty often even of the building energy devoted conferences neglected, it is life cycle. So energy in building is very important in whole life. So during the construction phase, all energy used for components of building, used for machinery, used to construct the building, all that is part of energy input. And after the end of use of building, it is to be, after destruction, biodegradable material. What we are as current technology using is what is very important. It is analysis, dynamic analysis of the building behavior, so building performance simulation, prediction of dynamic behavior of building. That is, for example, a big and great problem, even with standardization and legislation in EU today, and with this new way of building certification, where I don't know why, but just in the time, living in the time when all these technologies, IT technologies, so improved and so powerful and so commercialized and so disseminated in use, they're going with simplification of standards. So, for example, there is no summer regime. And if you fix the building for winter only, then you will peak loads in summer. So building performance simulation is to be used even for new design building, but also when you're going to refurbish buildings. So it is necessary to reach with the buildings the best what is concerning the knowledge and available technologies possible. So building performance simulation and a lot of energy efficiency improvement measures. So measures, I'm not going to list, but there are a lot of measures, and it is very often in very important, even supported with banks, analysis and project that let's implement just thermal insulation. They're analyzing payback period. Then just change window. But the fact is, and that is my scientific and my engineering experience, if you do and implement packages, all measures that you know and have, then it is the shortest payback period. Even I had one situation for downtown Berlin, period was negative. So it is quicker, but result it was commercial than to do part. Then it is of crucial importance to even, not only when it is new building design, but also when it is refurbishment, renovation, to do deep energy refurbishment, and define that in European Association. So renewable energy sources integrated renovation. For example, again, a lot of buildings in Germany, they were having with the implementation of thermal insulation had been done. It was Directive 2002. Then in 2008, there is another directive, let's say, Directive for Renewable, and then implementation of PV. When you are doing facade and doing insulation, or second facade, 40% of investment are work. If you do put second facade, semi-transparent, open PV, again 40% is work. If you do it in one, as a one step, in one project, you're saving 1/3. So renewable energy sources, integrated refurbishment is what to do. And goal is definitely to be zero. Zero. Not nearly zero. What is nearly zero? The engineers, for me, as engineer, nearly is not simple, possible to be given definition. It cannot be nearly secure building, or nearly secure building. It is optimal or it is not. But who is doing making that? Because colleague previous was talking about politics, I am free also to mention. Politicians are making that. Just to make something, you know, like fall to, it is and it is not, like cost. It is, can be optimal, but not now cost optimal. So introducing terms to can play and use whenever you like in different ways. Now, I will just run through several examples. That is one beautiful place. It is just at the coast, which I mentioned, of that village, Zapora in Montenegro. And a man came to me, investor, so non-government, but just a man who bought the land from the sea level above. You see above there are that villages, nothing. And he decided he wanted to build 18, 20 houses, little houses, a part to sell, a part to just rent. There was no electricity and no water. And we did feasibility study, and it came out that it is possible to have everything just using renewable. So to use sea water and seawater heat pump combined with solar radiation, PV to have heating and cooling, and wind energy. So here see water desalinization. It is reversible osmosis using PV. There is a temperature field in sea to know what is the annual changes, and together with all engineers, architects, civil, mechanical, electrical, performing building performance simulation. This is you see just bioclimatic effect. So without any optimization of building, above, upper, you can see that the highest temperature can be nearly 50 degrees in the summer, and that is the case that it was, for example, case in France in 2003, when a hot wave took nearly 20,000 people's lives. And below, just with optimization, you see the highest temperature is 35. So it is already, but to have real comfort and secure, health and life, it is to be air conditioned. Finally, the project in 2013 was awarded Energy Global Award Serbia for zero CO2 emission and energy zero, let's say, not using renewable energy as an energy source. I stress that there is urbanization, migration of people to cities that are villages, but there are also part of the world, for example, part of Europe, where is that concentration happening. It is like in Holland, Netherlands, and so there are some areas where is on a certain way, we can say a certain pattern there is about harmonization. There were some attempts in Germany by German government to equalize, rural and urban development. In cities, the previous example did show that in rural area we can definitely build new buildings and have settlements which are zero, because there is always enough place, either on the building itself, either on the ground, to use solar, wind, and what biomass and what is available. But in cities it is not always not so easy, especially not in 40 million people. This is in Belgrade, one residential area, and residential building. So at first and we are all aware that the buildings are the most important in the world to be focused when we are speaking about energy, because in the buildings sector it is the most energy used in the world, and second, most cost effective to invest energy efficiency in renewable is exactly in buildings. So, and of all buildings, residential is the biggest share. So renovation, refurbishment of residential building and designing new residential as zero CO2 emission is very important. And this is one project which was measuring and monitoring. It was very early, even in 1984, it was my laboratory was doing that. So full monitoring, like in best center in laboratories in Europe. We had 150 sensors and developed even own simulation model. You can see that was hybrid, passive and active, that this temperature in indoor space, although the outside were really huge, changes were very fine for living. So passive and active. In same period, in 85, there were system in monitoring in former Yugoslavia. There were 5 systems in 2 hotels in Serbia. In Montenegro were on the airport 1 system, and in Kupari was also 1 system. You see different type, and results of all were excellent experience, and they enhanced also the, in that time, existing industry of solar collectors production. In that time is also built and is still in operation, and you can find that system as a reference in ASHRAE handbook, System and Equipment, chapter 37. It is heat pump assisted solar vertical pole system for hotel apartments in Budva. In operation was in 84. And still in operation, and heat pumps were produced in Belgrade and solar collectors in Slovenia, and now it is renovated and it is going to proceed with its life. It is 3.5 megawatt. At that time was one of the biggest systems in Europe, and still is one of the biggest, and that is great experience. And it is a system which could be in Mediterranean, spread and designed on similar way. So propose swimming pool heating, sanitary water, swimming pool outdoor, so it is touristic season is extended. Then space heating and space cooling, air conditioning. The investment was returned in 1.5 years because apartments were air conditioning at a higher price. that is the scheme. There is no time for me, but who is interested for all of these different examples can write me and I can send papers or presentation. More analysis about the city and possibility. This is also very interesting. That is residential, Belgrade, New Belgrade, residential social housing, but 80 to 90% apartment have split units. So analysis by simulation did show that loads can be for heating reduced 5 times, for cooling also 5 times. The whole New Belgrade, the whole north part of Serbia is on water. Instead of using outdoor air for releasing heat in summer and using as source sometimes in spring and autumn, can be used groundwater. And with much higher COP, efficiency will be improved and even more reduction of loads can be obtained. And so it is to be reconstructed, refurbishment. Could be, in that case, when so much is the increased energy efficiency, it would be cost effective to power heat pumps by PV. PV can be added either, like you see on the right side, like opaque here, or can be added like semi-transparent PV, like second facade. On the part of building that you see that all these Venetians are closed, which means that people would like to have more in dim. Now, that is the last part of my presentation, and it was my privilege and honor to be twice a member of jury for energy efficiency, category of energy efficiency of Solar Decathlon. Solar Decathlon is famous competition of universities designing and building, constructing solar houses. It was US baby, at first in Washington, and in Europe they made contract, and first one was in 2010 in Madrid, Spain, second one in 2012, and the third one this year in Versailles in Paris. I was twice a member of jury in Madrid and Paris, and on the left you see that was a winner of 2012. It was a multi-apartment building, although the Solar Decathlon in 2012 was mainly dealing and showing one apartment buildings, houses. But these nano towers from Grenoble was several floors. Naturally, in Madrid was only the last and the rest. And it was very nice with greenery, and not only with renewable energy sources used, but also with certain changes in social behavior. So there were on one place washing machine and so on. On the right side is the winner of this year's Solar Decathlon competition. It is House Rome, and it was also presented in Paris like one apartment house, but they are also designed how it can be designed as a multi-apartment house. In year before, in 2012, one pretty high position ranked house was this Romanian house. It is interesting to show that very simple design house, as architecture, in category architecture, they didn't get much points. But in all others they did. But they used their traditional building Prisba down, right, you can see, and based on it they designed this. But this house was first sold, 150,000 euro they sold as a first house. All buildings in Madrid were producing 2 to 4 times more electrical energy than they were using. In Paris this year there was a little bit lower, but still they were all producing more. But of 10 days there were 7 rainy days. So that was also shown that it is the energy balance result. It's interesting that Romania, for example, there is not better situation concerning economy than in Serbia, Hungary, But Romania and Hungary, they had the houses on both this European competition, and even this year Romania had 2 houses. This year was also Croatia with one very nice house, but they were not in official competition placed. Also, as jury, we did find that they were not worthy the others. So in Paris there were 20 teams, and what is interesting, result of this high ratio of exported energy and use, so much more exported surplus energy than used, was on all these elements, not so much resulted in advance of PV technology or solar thermal or PV thermal, but result exactly of fine harmonization of structure, HVAC equipment, thermal mass, so harmonization of building as a whole, of integrated building design. This year is interesting concerning my main topic also, that several projects were dealing with dense. So it was also a new goal for French solar decathlon to deal with the dense urban areas. And in energy efficiency, the winner was this from Nantes house. You see, that is a historic building, and they did get permission at first to do that. Is in certain countries very different rules about how to deal with historic, not real heritage, but still historic buildings, but they did. And they analyzed and planned to change and renovate, to use money getting for renovation, and to integrate renewables and improve energy efficiency of the whole building. So they're dealing only with that middle part you can see on the, see, here, and for money which they did get to do that, exactly they did renovation of the whole building, and they exactly made, did solve also space, did get improved, increased space for living, and also contributed with their solution to traffic problems in dense urban areas, because they use apartment, fine, reduced space, but near that also immediately office with using solar and fine energy efficiency. Similar project was by Holland team, Netherlands team, Delft house. Delft home with a scheme to improve house, similar solution. And what is for all 3 European solar decathlon important, and what is also the base for so fantastic results concerning produced and exported energy to the grid and used, it is the fact that all buildings were connected in Schneider's micro smart grid. So it is, all houses are in smart grid, and smart grid at first is optimizing the use of produced renewable-based solar energy in the apartment, in-house. So directing and managing which of appliances is going to be on, when it is available, so not without energy storage, so to use when it is available, and to maximize what is sent to the grid. And also they are doing optimization within the whole settlement. So at first, to maximize use what is available in the whole settlement of these buildings on the competition side, and to maximize what is sent to the grid. So Schneider microgrid is fantastic as a technology, which is to these 3 European naturally permanent in development, 3 European solar decathlon. Now, what is additionally very interesting and important in Paris is that at universities, covering all the world. There was from Mexico, there was from Thailand, Costa Rica, Europe, Asia. Universities were also teaming, for example, German with American, Mexican with Chinese, and so on. And they designed, the cycle is 2 years. They designed buildings, they constructed buildings in all countries, they did monitoring in their local climate, using in synergy monitoring and online comparison with the simulation results. Can you imagine how valuable for validation of software are those results? They were using software in their countries very different. Energy plus currencies, depending on their interest. In Paris, all were, again, with smart grid optimized, all were in monitoring, so there is energy balance performed, and you can find easily on the site of Solar Decathlon, you can read energy balance. And we're running in one unit software. So now we have fantastic, valuable base of data, of locally, measurement, simulations, and in Paris. And now there is idea also supported, endorsed by a journal, Energy and Building journal, because that journal is already providing authors with the online presenting papers with the, for example, information about on the same topic, tables, and in some other papers, but now also is idea to provide with some kind of data. So there is idea to establish one world network research project which will use these valuable data to improve, so on the benefit of world knowledge and monitoring and development of the energy, renewable energy production generation in the world. So the final conclusion is, let's see here, for final conclusion, very important, that it is zero energy line. So produced energy and used energy the same. Just these four houses were less producing than using, and all these above are much more producing, sending to the grid than using. These are installation data, these 10 days for the competition in Paris, and you can see that these data were really bad. So sustainable urban and rural communities are absolutely possible to develop and to harmonize rural and urban development. So buildings in rural areas are to become energy plus, and that's definitely possible. And to produce enough energy also for dense area where there is impossible to cover on the site and all energy needs by renewable. So that's my message about the way how to harmonize rural and urban sustainable development. So to preserve natural and cultural heritage, to provide people with standard of living in rural area, the same as, and the quality of life to be the same as cities. Internet, we have now all around the world, internet, so they can live in those. I had a few nice slides in different parts, rural, in Serbia, Montenegro, Adriatic, and so on. There are a lot of places. Young people, there are so many unemployed people, but educated. They can, in rural area, work for Arab or any other very famous world company, enjoy, have healthy children, and that is also part of sustainability. And without worrying around the world, what we have these years more and more, to really not only dream, but expect and reach sustainable future. Even these war, which did start on Balkan also in early 90s. There was on Arsha in 94 a conference, public session. They have also an evening before starting the conference, public session. There was presenter like Ralph Lewis, vice director of Gulf Oil Company, and he did start with his fingers showing the map behind him, going over Bosnia, south border, Near East, Middle East, south border of Soviet Union, showing where our resources managed. And that phase is now in the world even in growth. So thank you very much for that.